Greetings and God bless. I just read an article or a headline that a New York City train employee was shot twice, and they defended themselves, and now they're facing criminal charges for self defense after having been shot twice. And there's videos of white children being cornered and gang stalked and bullied. And there was the video about the young girl that was murdered eventually. They showed her initially, um, but she was stabbed like 32 times. And so, of course, the leftists are going to blame these children. They're going to blame history. They're going to say this is necessary. And I would say, I'm pretty sure that there's some Marxists and some psychopaths that will say, well, this is necessary. Like this type of suffering and torture is necessary to pay for what happened hundreds of years ago. And I'm sure there's a lot of progressive white liberals, leftists that believe this to be the case, that just random children should be are blamed. They're the reason. They're the fault. They're why the bullies have to bully. They're why these murderers have to murder them. And I'm pretty sure that there's progressive liberal left people who they don't want to think about it too much, but they think that there's a justification. That's psychotic, but but if people are getting shot, but the city is arresting the person getting shot, like the employee got shot twice, like from what I understand, it's a felony to even touch a bus driver, and it's like $75,000 fine or something like that. But in New York City, you get to shoot an MTA employee, and the city will arrest the MTA employee because anything anybody does is fine. And and like this is insane. It's absolutely insane. Um it's so bizarre. But like I'm having conversations with my college friends, my progressive left college friends, and it's like March 2023, and they believe in the narrative. They believe in the masks. They believe in the vials, the ingredients. They think that the sudden deaths are irrelevant. They believe in the defund the police and the pushing the trans stuff. They are just hysterical. Um, this is exact everything they've lived for, I guess. But it's weird because they have a traditional job. They're in a traditional relationship, heterosexual, or having children, and two cats or whatever. They're not. I mean, are they like Manchurian candidates? Are they like some weird MK Ultra victim or something like that? I don't know. But it's March 2023. There's like even the New York Times is talking about stuff, or I think it's the Wall Street Journal, and like stuff is percolating up, like information is coming out, and you just see, I mean, like, where's people's moral compass? That's the thing. Like, there's no backbone or something. And I'm talking about friends that I had when I was 17, 18 in college, and that were activists or very politically informed. And it's like now they're like, don't talk to me about it. I can't think. I just need to play and pay my bills. And yeah, work is hell. Work is just a nightmare. I understand that. And life and dealing with responsibilities is very tough. And I have a hard time with that too. But We are human beings and members of a culture, and there's vulnerable people, little children, that are vulnerable targets, and it's like it's white people that are fine with it. They're like, as long as it's not my kid, as long as it's not my niece or nephew, oh well, so we got it's okay if a little kid gets bullied to death and murdered and stabbed and who knows what else. Like, on one hand, I think we have to pay attention. We have to keep things in perspective. 800,000 children go missing every year, and they're trafficked, they're tortured, they're abused, they're violated. They're before 2020. Who knows now because of the masking? Because you can just hide so much. The perpetrator can hide behind a mask. The child's identity is totally altered. So, excuse me. Um, so I think we can't get like upset, like out of control or whatever. But it's so it's insane. It's like we're in this like mental institution of like very sick, dangerous, violent people, and it's not just like people on drugs trying to get their next fix. It's like our progressive liberal white friends who are well educated, who you know they are they gonna um you know uh like tell the Nazis who should die, because this is it. These are brown shirts. There are Nazis, and we're in like Nazi 2.0. Um, and it's just, and people are like, well, only white people are bad, and anybody else is a victim. So anything that a victim does to a white person is empowerment, even if it's like bullying them and torturing them and stabbing them 20 sometimes. I'm sure that there's somebody out there that's like, yeah, that's great, that's empowerment. Like, two wrongs don't make a right. This is not going to benefit you know like people of color, like other to stab a white person. Like, that's not like somebody who never did anything to them. Or let's say somebody is a jerk. Like, you don't get to be murdered. You don't get to kill somebody because they're rude to you. You don't get to murder somebody because they don't like you. You don't get to kill somebody because they don't like your skin color. All right? Like, whoa, gasp. There's plenty of black people who hate the white skin color. There's plenty of Asian people who hate white skin color. There's plenty of light black people who don't like dark black people's skin color. There's a lot of black people who hate Asian people. Like, this is just what happens. There's jerky people, there's prejudiced people, and people have to go through their lives. That's why, like, we have life. We have learning experiences. I knew a guy in the 90s, and maybe like it was the 80s. He was like he was a skinhead, and he did a lot of drugs, a lot of pot, a lot of acid, and that helped him realize that he didn't like that. He didn't want to be a white supremacist. He realized that humans were human, and the color was irrelevant. And he had to go through that himself. Like, and he had the the freedom. Like, when somebody's becoming an artist or a good writer or a historian or a good barista, you have time. Like, maybe a barista hated coffee, and they were a juicer, and then they slowly got into coffee. Like, that is just how life is. And I think that, like, I don't, uh, like nowadays we are hearing about people being rejected from being on like Star Trek because the guy's a white guy, a white male. And Scott Adams, he got rejected because he's a white male, and now he dares to be, a questioner about the injection. So now, like, it's really like there is this. I think the term is reverse racism, where like white people are like, oh, nobody wants to hire, because everybody's trying to virtue signal how woke they are. So everybody has blue hair and they have different pronouns, and or there are people of color, uh, but it's not like you get an ordinary person that's like not that attractive and maybe overweight, weird clothes. That's the ideal hire, even though everybody's talking about how there's not enough people working. Like, my latest theory now is that managers are hiring those who can serve, who can give them kind of some other bribe or something like that. I think a lot of managers are not hiring. Number one, they want to treat you like crap. They're negligent. They don't keep a safe working environment. Places, I would say a majority of my jobs have not been OSHA compliant. And, employers, managers don't want to do anything. And I would say that even in apartments I've rented, like, it's just, it's a weird thing. Like, when you're in a home, like when somebody's a homeowner, like they're fixing this, they're fixing that, and things get taken care of within weeks. But when you're renting someplace, and you have to like know like law and stuff like that to get stuff fixed, you look on Yelp to look up property management companies, and it's like a nightmare. There's like no good, decent property management companies, and it's just the cliche of how abusive and negligent. Just as a rule, employers are, and and things like property management companies who are serving likely entry level employees. So anyway, I got a little sidetracked, but um, yeah, uh, how is the left thinking killing white children is the answer? Like, you know, like, and this is a very supernatural, paranormal, evil, vindictive, self-loathing kind of mentality. But I do think that there's some of these Satanists are like, like blood in the streets, lots of innocent blood in the streets, because that's where we're leading up to. And I saw a talk tonight. It's just a video replay, and this lady was talking about conservative, taking like not getting involved and being proud that conservatives haven't been involved in what's been going on the past few years. And I'm like, I spit on that. Like, conservatives should have been involved from the very moment they had an inkling something was not right. It's despicable. Like, their children, their grandchildren, their parents, their spouses, their neighbors, their friends, their coworkers, their good role models were like murdered in a gruesome way, and you're proud you didn't do anything. I mean, I understand vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, but I don't think that God's like, yeah, and if you see your child being butchered in front of you, do nothing. Like, but that's what I noticed. That's what is so disappointing and surreal about Christians is they're like, oh, I'm just gonna read my Bible. I'm not gonna, you know, pay attention to what's going on. It's like it's very troubling to me because my progressive left friends, are like, everything's fine and at my own peril, because they're white, they're straight or straight acting. They have a home, they have pets, they have a conventional job, they have a retirement fund, like some have kids, spouse, all right, and the current, uh, you know, fomenting activist group is not like it's not into the conventional, um, like stable heterosexual left life, like the activists think that everybody needs to be gay or trans, and that somehow small minority is all that matters. And because this activism is not about biological women's rights, and it's not about biological white women's rights, it's not about biological black mothers who don't want to get an abortion's rights, it's not about black people's rights who don't want to get the injection, who want to breathe oxygen, who don't want to wear a mask. Their rights don't matter, right? Like to the left, like all of that demographic are traitors, are garbage people that need to be killed, right? That's what the left. The left is about destruction of everything, like everything that's not them. So the trans movement just wants itself. So let's think. Okay, so all the trans people, because I even feel like it's like not even the gay movement; it's like the trans movement. Um, so take away everything that has to do with heterosexuality and white people and people that want to breathe oxygen and people that want to control what's injected into their body. Like take away all of that. So we don't have electricity, we don't have running water, we don't have buildings, we don't have stores, we don't have cars, we don't have gasoline to put into the cars, we don't even have electric cars. Okay, so like, you get rid of all of but the trans people. And what's there's probably going to be one really good survivalist, maybe a couple, that's the male to female, that knows how to make a fire, and they'll become a warlord, a slave owner or something like that. But yeah, I mean that's the weird thing is there's this loathing that the trans agenda has for everything that has led us, like every blessing that, being a God-fearing country and a God-fearing people has given us. And it's clear that this trans thing is like this weird psyop indoctrination, and like it's not a willing. It's not like trying to be inviting or welcoming. It's like manipulation. It's like very sick, twisted manipulation, and it's just trouble. It's just like, and these parents, they surrender their little daughters and sons to these drag queens at the library story time, and it's like number one, why is a drag queen wanting to hang out with little children? Like there's no reason at all, zero reason. But these very insecure parents are like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this because they think it's like some type of circus act. This is not a circus act. Like in a circus act, the clown is just moving on, you know. But with this drag queen story time, they're trying to get the kid addicted. They're trying to get that kid's soul. They're trying to steal that children's soul. And yeah, I do think circus clowns or candy sellers or toy store sellers or whoever, they also want a piece of the child's soul because they want that child to drag the mother back to buy more stuff. But this like drag queen ritual, because these drag queens are really the Babylonian temple priestesses that were men who work for a goddess, for their pagan goddess. So these are temple prostitutes, men who dress up as women. So these are people doing a ritual, a pagan ritual. And the thing that demons love is violated children. They love to desecrate innocence. And then these like stupid liberal parents are like, yeah, let's sacrifice my children. You really want my child so bad? Yeah. It's like, and the thing is, I know only Big Brother at YouTube and the AI bot are watching this. So thank you for your time, for listening, for being the only one, being my only audience. But yeah, and I'm right, like that the people of color get to murder children. People of color get to murder little white children or bully little white children, and it's the little white children's fault that the people of color are murdering them and bullying them, right? It's the white children's fault. It's the murdered person's fault. It's the bullied person's fault, right? Like that's the mentality of the person committing incest. That's the mentality of the malignant narcissist. That's the mentality of the narcissist. Is the narcissist is just an absolute monster and says, "Oh, well, when I was raping my child, they liked it." Or the mother, when the daughter's asking, help mom, mother's like, "Oh, I thought you liked it, being raped by your father or whoever." But that's where we're at. Like that's what's ruling the United States. And so the left is absolutely insane and dissociated. And on one hand, in their little incest support group, or when they're having a therapy meeting, they're like, "Yeah, I, my boundaries were violated," but they're going to submit their children to be violated by pedophiles. They're going to ignore when other little kids are bullied or murdered because, well, it's okay if a person of color murders and bullies. And then conservatives are like, "Oh, well, I'm doing other things." Like, am I weird? Am I weird for caring? Because I don't think there's a lot of people that care. Like, there should be thousands, there should be millions of people, minorities, people of color, disabled, elderly, medical people, military people, farmers. Like, everybody should be like, nobody gets to bully a little kid, whether they're white or whatever. Nobody gets to murder a little girl. And they certainly should not be blamed. Like that MTA worker is blamed after getting shot. They defended themselves, and now they've got a criminal case. But that's New York. That's the Democratic left. So even if you are the YouTube person who's, vetting my video for community guidelines and stuff, like they're going to come after you, sort of like that Nazi quote. So there was a quote, I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's like, they first came for the socialists and I did nothing. Then they came for the gypsies and I did nothing. Then they came for the Jews and I did nothing. Then they came for the Slavs and I did nothing. And finally, they came for me and there was nobody there to help. And that's what's happening, like, and it's just everything. And I'm not like, the Bible says, don't let yourself get distressed. And I'm not like, oh no, I have, I'm sad, I'm not like that. I'm pretty sure we're at the end times. We're at the last few seconds of the end times because things are just so insane, just on every level. And I think like the fact that we do have electricity and running water and roads and food on the shelves at the grocery store. I mean, I think it's a miracle because the past few years in the United States have just been like just insane. Um, such a punishment. I feel so bad for entry level workers that had to suffocate and work in this inhumane situation and basically be like a slave. And because like the home life did not improve. That probably got worse. And I mean, there was just no compensation other than maybe grace of God. And I'm wondering, like things have gotten worse. Like the lockdowns is when I first started, like spring of 2020, and I was because I never learned how to drive because I was an environmentalist. I was like, well, that's one way to help the planet is not to do that. And when you don't drive, you don't get jobs, you don't get decent housing, you don't get opportunities, you don't get cool friends because you don't drive. So I have my whole life has been sacrificed significantly because of that environmental choice. And I do like walking. I do like hearing birdsong when there is birdsong. Like here in Denver, there's like very, very little um, birdsong. But uh, anyway, I wanted to mention that during the lockdowns in 2020, so everybody was staying home. Like even though where I was, you're allowed to walk on the sidewalk, you're allowed to go to the grocery store. And like I was in Virginia, which was I think it did one of the first constitutions. I think Thomas Jefferson uh, had his mansion there. And so like folks in Virginia should have kind of known constitutional rights and whatnot. But I was in a nice neighborhood, and so I guess like liberals are the least educated about human rights or your rights as an American. It's the weirdest thing because on one hand they're like free Nelson Mandela, free Chelsea Manning, free Edward Snowden, um, but then like, but I should go to jail. We should all go to prison because we're scared of a bug. And there's been no precedent. I mean, I even wonder if the 2000 or if the 1918 thing. I wonder if that's in a way. I wonder if that's real because I never saw anything about it until 2020. Like none of my grandparents talked about it. My parents never talked about it. Like nobody ever talked about it if it was such a big deal. Like, and like when AIDS happened, nobody talked about the 1918 stuff, you know. So anyway, but my point is that people's behavior, spring of 2020, driving, they were like maniacs. It was like Mad Max. Folks were not looking to see if anybody was crossing the street. People were driving like bad out of hell. And maybe they were afraid. I think they just were glad to be able to be reckless drivers. And that's the thing I notice about people who drive is they're like, the road is mine. This is my road. And I'm gonna be like careless and you better watch out for my crazy moves. Like and I like when I lived in San Francisco in the 90s, people were careful, people were cautious, generally. Like one time this guy tried running me over and that really shocked the daylights out of me because generally, you know, we all work together. Like the people in the car knew I was just trying to cross the street and they had the wherewithal to wait. And but like I would say, and once I moved to Oregon, that became like the nightmare. I was living in a uh, a suburb, and people were just like, I'd be wearing this orange rain suit, and they were just like, to hell with you. And I was surprised because, like, Portland, like, when you're in certain parts of Portland, people would actually wait. But other parts, other suburbs, especially where streets are bigger, like, that's the problem with it's called stroads when you have like a 5 lane highway or 5 lane road, a street or whatever. Um, like, people are just like, they lose their humanity. They just have no patience. They have no ability to be human, and they're just like, I just want to go. Too bad if I scare a pedestrian. Too bad if I hit a bicyclist or almost hit somebody. And I think that drivers, even nice people, do that kind of thing more than they would admit to themselves. And and they're just like, well, that's just how it is. That it's that horrible thing. Like, to make an omelet, you have to break a few eggs. So to get, so I can get to my yoga class fast, I just killed somebody. Well, hopefully they won't find out. And it's like, the only time anybody has properly driven is at their driving test. Because when I was in Montana, like, the driving test was, I mean, I hadn't done it, but I read the manual and it seemed fairly, um, extensive. And yet people did not know how to drive. They didn't know that when somebody was standing at a corner, that meant they were trying to cross the street. Like, there was multiple people that were like, people in their 60s, people in their 20s, you know, broad daylight. Like, it's weird. And I think uh, there's this, like, I understand people don't like the 15-minute cities thing. Like, I'm like, if there's a park and a library and a grocery store and a post office all within 15, as a pedestrian, I'm like, that's pretty cool. But they're going to make it like, it's like, the world is crazy right now. So it's going to be even more horrible because they want to feed us bugs and make us eat cancer cell fake meat, fake gel food product. Um, so, they want open air prisons, the globalists. So 15-minute cities are like, it is not, it's not going to be a good thing because they don't regard us as human beings. The globalists regard us as useless eaters, only there to be harvested for adrenochrome and organs and whatnot. I don't know why. I don't know why they have such a horrible, evil um, perspective against human beings. Yeah, some human beings are absolute jerks. A lot are. I'm a jerk sometimes. But even though I know people are jerks, I'm not. I'm like, do your own thing. Like, I don't think I have a right to eliminate somebody's life or limit or, you know, harm somebody. Um, like, I mean, I don't want to interact with somebody who's a terrible person. But anyway, uh, so yeah, people are, and I would say, like, some folks are like, yeah, once people started getting injections, that's when people's behavior started going down. But I have thought people's behavior has been declining, like, maybe like 2000. I mean, 2005 was my first real disappointment in humanity. And in maybe 2008, like, something happened. I wonder if it was like the Clintons kind of got people seduced by a charismatic president that didn't have integrity, and everybody's like, oh, well, I like him anyway, so, you know like, let's keep him on. It's like nepotism or something like that. And then with Obama, people were like, oh, yeah, he looks great, he talks great, you know he says what we like to hear. So, like he gets the job. And I think people, uh, like, I think they chose him without, without really leaving. Like, I think it's a type of racism. It was a type of racism to be like, oh, he's black, I'm gonna choose the black president. That's racism. Like affirmative action is kind of a racism, because you're not choosing somebody because they're a fit. You're choosing somebody so your numbers look good, so you can, brag about your number of people of color. So I think it was really racism that got Obama elected. And a lot of the left, a lot of progressive liberals know this. So they're really racist while claiming they're not. Like white trans people that voted for Obama are racist, you know? Like, I'm not saying, like some are. Like some gay people that are white voted for Obama, even like black people. Like, it's like anybody who, if you vote for somebody because they're white, just because they're white, not because they have any values, that's racism. If you vote for somebody just because they're a female, because you want to see boobs or something, that's sexism. Like a person has to be qualified in order to be a president. Uh, and so I think that's it. I think that and maybe even Bill Clinton, because when he played that saxophone, that is not what an American president needs to do or should do. That was very undignified, but it fit the time. It fit the culture. Was that the 90s? Yeah. So with the Clintons, that was the beginning of like this loss of integrity, like of like this reduced caliber of figurehead. So because people were like, oh, I like Hillary because she's a feminist, not because she was a good person, because if you look at her record, it's like not good. So yeah, so I think it was like the Clinton Obama thing was like, and like now with the current one, like, and people are like, oh, it's fine, I think he's great. I'm like, what, are you kidding me? Like, are you watching the same, like, and I can't say more because I don't want to upset anybody. That's the AI and the one person at YouTube. Hi, thanks so much for watching. Because this is a long rambling diatribe, but yeah. So I think it was the Clinton stuff and the Obama stuff, and the liberals realized that they are fake, that they're not really liberals, that they are prejudiced, they're bigoted, and they have, just been zealots for, not for true liberalism, not for morality or integrity or, the preservation of man and woman and child and family. Like, they're just doing something like this liberal thing, this leftist thing is like, I don't think they know what they're doing. It's like revenge. Like, that's what's going on now, is revenge. But what? Revenge for what? Like, revenge that you feel bad, revenge that you are depressed. So it's like, it's a Christian's fault that you're depressed. It's like a straight person's fault that you're uncomfortable with yourself, that in your own skin. Like, this is crazy. It's like, there's not like this is nihilism. If you think that you get to be angry at everybody else for your own discomfort, like, this is like toddler level, 3-year-old level acting out. But somehow this has become a political movement. And that smarter people than I can't see through. And yeah, I understand that these trans people who are feeling so terrible, parents, because their parents were working, because their parents were obsessed with themselves, because their parents had addictions and severe mental illness, and the community did not help, and family did not help, and schools did not help. And as a matter of fact, the trusted agents of the public good betrayed these children, betrayed these little babies, that, from 20 years ago or however long. And I guess this is the revenge on the negligent community and negligent parents of the past. But, for a fact, it's not my fault that, something happened. It's not that little girl's fault that was murdered and stabbed 23 times. It wasn't her fault that the migrant children's parents were the way they were, and that their culture, like Muslim culture, did whatever. It wasn't that little girl's fault. Even if that little girl had said a mean thing, even if that little girl had dared to even think a mean thing, as if, like, trans people say mean things all the time. We have reams of video of hateful things, of signs and words and shouting and attacks. There's countless murders, black on black murders or black and white murders, but the left doesn't see that. There's hundreds of murders that have occurred since the defund the police movement has occurred, but the left doesn't see that. The left doesn't care about those black lives. The only black lives that matter is the one that support and boost your narrative. It's like craziness. I mean, oh man. I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared to know how to look at this. And and I can't I can't talk to anybody at length about it because everybody's too busy and it's too dreadful. So it's just you and me, YouTube, censorship person, and the AI bot. And I really thank you guys. Like, I know terminology I use or concepts might seem a little historic and a little just too much history, but that's where we're going. We're going back. We're regressing. And I believe we're at the end of times, the end of the world. And maybe maybe the children that are being murdered by people of color, or other children of by children of color, because like black people are killing black people all the time. I'm sure black children are killing black children. Black men are killing black pregnant women, but the left doesn't care about that. The only person that cares is some guy whose first name began with a G and last name began with F. That's the only one that matters, but maybe the murdered children who the left will blame. How dare that white child be alive? That white child's paying for whatever happened to the children of color that murdered them. So the white child has to be a human sacrifice. But maybe that white child is going to be spared what's to come. Because what's to come, like, it's bad now. This is bad. I mean, people eating other people's faces off. That was just a couple months on the train in Portland, Oregon. Okay. This isn't the only time somebody ate somebody's face off. What, that Pfizer executive bit somebody's nose off? Folks, 2012, that guy in Florida ate like half of the face of that homeless guy. I think his face, like they were able to do surgeries. But man, I think that's, and if you see like the fentanyl stuff and the trank, flesh eating, drug side effects, and like sabotage of factories and food supplies, and like you can't have a fire. You've got to only use electricity. But places like in California, they don't have enough systems to handle the load, so they have to like do rolling blackouts and stuff like that. A couple winters ago, the windmills in Texas failed, and people froze to death in their homes. And that was when things were much more together. So, like, life is hell. I would say this is hell. This is the type of hell, uh, you know, and it's just a taste. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that thought that I'm sure the left blames murdered white children for people of like children of color for murdering them. And it's just a tragedy. It's just, and the thing is, like, years ago, I don't know how many years, so maybe like 2015, 2016, I was reading up about bullying. And bullying's, it's been a problem. It doesn't just happen to gay people, it doesn't just happen to trans people, it happens to all sorts of people. It happens especially to maybe low income people, independent people that don't have a big clique. If you're not a clique, you're in danger. And it happens to nicer people, uh, like mean people generally know how to fend off other mean people. But nicer people are like trying to see what's the problem, what did I do, let's see how we can fix it, and like these nicer people that get bullied, it will bend over backward trying to accommodate, and then the bully is like, oh, I can mess with this person, I can try to tell this person it's their fault. And so there's a book, Queen Bees and Wannabes. I forget what the author's name is. Weissman. Last name is Weissman, Wiseman. And there was just story after story of children talking to their parents, and the parents talking to the principal, the teacher, the parent, the parent of the bully, and nobody would do anything. Like, the parent wanted their kid to be safe, but the parent of the bully didn't do anything. The teacher, and especially the principal, didn't do anything because the principal didn't want to have any problem. The thing is, like, that's the principal's job. Like, you're supposed to protect your children. Like, you're not supposed to facilitate bullying to the point where the child commits suicide and then the bully rejoices on social media, which is what happened. And I mean, like, this is a thing. Like, social media is so toxic. And the people at Facebook admitted they knew it was going to be toxic. They knew it was malevolent. So it's like, what happened on Facebook? Like the bullying and um, demise, the murder, the psychological murder of people happen on Facebook, but now it's happening in reality. And I think people they're so medicated on their psychiatric medications, on their dope, on their recreational drugs and alcohol. They're sleep deprived. They're on their devices, so they're just addicted to that dopamine fix of their device. So they're driving like maniacs, not even looking at the road. Don't think they have to look at the road. Don't think they don't feel responsible for being safe on the road. I mean, people, when you're walking down a sidewalk or in a grocery aisle, like people are just like sprawled out, like in a major city. And I've seen this, all over. And people are just like, you know, like how dare you go down the aisle? Like it's weird. We're in such a fallen world, and I guess that's what we're getting to see. And lastly, I wonder, though, if the people that were executed, uh, you know, maybe all those people in China, I think it was how many billion? Was it a billion? Or like 3 million? I don't know. There's a lot of people. So in China, during their lockdowns, is they lost 3 million phones were deactivated, like in, I don't know, 3 months or something like that, and that's a lot. And so folks were trying to speculate, where that many people disappeared, because China does organ harvesting, and they they kill political dissidents, and you would see like these videos of people being hauled away, and they're just fighting for their lives as they're taken down the stairs to who knows, to their doom. And the crematoriums were like huge heat maps, like there were maps of Chinese crematoriums, and they're just like molten lava heat maps. And then a lot of people were executed here, and the highest number for deaths, and which I regard as executions, were in the UK, in the United States, and in nursing homes and hospitals. That's where the physical proximity of the most amount of deaths were. So I wonder if all of those people in the US and UK, nursing homes and hospitals, and in China, if those people hosted the Holy Spirit, like maybe they were very important people, that helped the world be a little bit of a better place, and that we've lost them. And maybe that's why things are so bad now. I mean, I know CERN, that was reactivated. When was that? It was recently. So CERN admits that it's letting beings into this reality. It's like, they're like, it's not a demon, but it's not a good being. It just knows stuff. So it's a demon. Like there's no such thing as an alternative to a demon or God. Like there's no alternative to a demon, a good angel of God. Like it's um so that's at work, and it does seem like there's more like Satanism and like witchcraft, and the occult has just become mainstream, and everybody's like, oh yeah, you know. And Christians are like, yeah, I'm doing my yoga. Yeah, I'm doing this like pagan ritual. It's just it's a mess. It's a mess. So I'm glad I was able to get this off my chest. Wow, it took me an hour. It's like YouTube. Big Brother and the AI bot, if that's who's watching this. I really do appreciate your attention. And this is just my opinion. This is my observation. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope everything gets fixed. I hope we uh, become a moral culture where we don't blame murder victims and we don't expect little children to be bullied and stabbed to death as a payment to endless um, vengeance of people who that those children never did anything to. I hope we have some humanity. I hope we have some civilization and the best of civilization. I don't think we will, but um, I hope you know because folks are not going to do well if there's like no food and people are cannibalizing their pets and their children, and if there's no electricity and no running water, and marauding groups are you know raping and pillaging. I mean, like that happens in other countries. Like Americans, I don't think. And the thing is, we've been so demolished, destroyed, attacked. Like we don't even have our good nature. Like we don't even have our Americanness because we've been told how loathsome America is. Like Americans, we've been told to loathe ourselves, to hate ourselves. At least I would say from the 60s onward, because that's like when I was in elementary school. We watched that environmental video with the Indian that was crying. Like, and the funny thing is, these activists, and let me know if it's you, like the censorship YouTube people, like these activists, they're like, yeah, humans are a cancer on the planet, but these same activists are driving like you have a car. Like that's so hypocritical. But these activists are like, well, I've got to, and my friends have to, and my parents have to. Everybody. I mean, so like, no, that's not acceptable. Like I don't have a car. I've never had a car. I don't know how to drive a car. I made sacrifices, like because I was trying to help the earth, and it sucks. Yeah, it ruins your life. It limits your life. There's no glamour. I have no friends. I have no boyfriend. I have no like fun. I don't go travel. You know, and when I take the bus or the train, absolute crazy fentanyl addicts are pooping or taking off their clothes or flipping out, getting angry. And it's not even just fentanyl addicts. Like people are just angry. Like working people are getting mad at other people trying on public transportation. But like the progressive left is like, yeah, there shouldn't be any cars except for me. I should have a car. But yeah, the rest of you should take public transport. It's just like driving a car. It's like just no. It's a whole other. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare walking on the sidewalks in major cities. Either it's like a ghost town and all the stores are shuttered and there's nobody out, so that's spooky, or it's homeless people that are brought in. Like, so from what I understand is like there's a pimp that brings in the homeless people. Like when I was in South Dakota, they would bring in homeless people from the reservation, so the homeless people would panhandle, and then the pimp would pool the money. And I don't know if they would buy alcohol or whatever, drugs or something like that, but like it was sad. It was a horrible thing, and I wonder if that's here in Denver. I mean, it's so you know, the left is so privileged, it's so sheltered, it doesn't realize how unrealistic its prescription is. And like you can't have this liberal idea, this leftist idea, this Marxist idea, it won't work when you're forcing it on somebody. And yeah, I'm sure there, and I think some of this Marxist activist stuff, like folks are doing a live action role play and they're in video game mode and they're emotionally stunted. I think there's some of that. And uh, and they assume that conservatives are non-player characters. They assume that dangerous people are non-player characters, and we're not. We're human beings, and that's valuable. Like we matter to God, and evil, oof, like turn away. There's no reason for you to be evil, really. Even if you think you're going to make money, even if you think Satan's going to protect you, Satan isn't. Satan is otherwise. Satan is lying to you. And yeah, so I'm gonna do another talk to AI next. So, anyways, what do you guys think? If anybody else other than YouTube censorship or the bot watch this video, and if YouTube censorship, if you did, if there's anything I read that resonated for you, if you have like a burner comments thing, because I have like, it says I have 9 subscribers, but I only can see 3. So apparently six of you are probably like CIA, NSA people that are, flagging my videos or something like that. But and I don't know what's the problem, because I'm all over the place and I have hundreds of videos, and I think like all of them could be, I mean, if you want to extrapolate anything, it could, so just tell me what you liked, and I could focus on that. So if you're like a NSA, CIA, FBI, stalker or something, watching my video, like because you're one of the 6 people that won't show on my subscription list, like either unsubscribe, because I'd rather know who's subscribed to my 9-person. I've got an audience of 9. And I keep getting flagged. I keep getting a warning or a strike. And I'm like, who is so upset? Because you are the only one watching this video. Like there's thousands, millions of better videos than mine. And I'm getting a warning or a strike? For what? Like, just tell me what. What's the problem? Like, because we could go through the whole alphabet, and yeah, and it's just like, and I know I'm an independent thinker, so I know I'm not conforming to the narrative, but apparently you can say some things that are outside of the narrative, clearly. So what part of going outside of the narrative is acceptable, So if anybody would kind of tell me that, so I don't get a warning or worse, and then I can work around it, because I just don't know all the things to work around. I say CV, I say injection, and and it's just, yeah. So anyways, my next video is going to be on talking to AI. So thank you for watching. God bless.